Hey everybody, Steve Whittier here, 40 Plus BJJ. This is my group, again, for those of you who are newer, and sorry I haven't been on for a little bit, been super bogged down with a bunch of different projects I've been working on, but I wanted to jump on because I noticed that we had a few posts. I've responded to a couple individually for some things about different topics with injuries and things like that. By the way, thought that I was going to have a knee surgery, just found out I don't. It's a super tight patellar tendon condition that I have, so I'll be able to work through that, so great success. Just some PT. But the topic I want to talk about real quick is there's been a couple BJJ cardio conversations that I just saw, and a little bit of information that I thought would be useful because in particular when somebody's talking about having an upcoming competition. So this is general knowledge, but also as it pertains to competition. I've learned some things. I'm not an expert on this field. Some of you probably are and would know a little bit more, but I have consulted as a coach for jiu-jitsu and mixed martial arts. I have consulted with some people that are very good with this. So there are, as most of you know, there's the anaerobic capacity and the aerobic capacity. Anaerobic is the shorter, more intense, in layman's terms, right? Aerobic is the kind of like the long, slow type of cardio. And hey, Marty. But within the anaerobic capacities, there's both lactic and alactic and lactic. And so there's actually two mechanisms within that fall under anaerobic. So the thing is, that's interesting, so the alactic system is the max output, like sort of short bursts. That's typically 8 to 11 seconds. And that will take, if you're at full capacity with alactic output, it's going to take you like 2 to 5 minutes to recover fully. Lactic system is going to be like the 20 to 40 second type of like a sprint. And that's going to take about 1.5 minutes to 3 minutes. And as you can see, like think of different scenarios in grappling, running, any type of physical activity that is explosive and intense. And you can think of like what might fall under alactic versus lactic, right? So like the 8 to 11 max output, or kind of like a long scramble exchange that goes 20, 30 seconds or something, right? That's alactic and lactic. Now, here's the important thing. So of alactic, lactic for anaerobic, and then aerobic, the one capacity that diminishes the fastest, okay, meaning if it's not consistently trained, is the alactic, right? That actually doesn't last for more than 5 days. So this is really interesting when the question comes up like, when should I start to taper off from my conditioning program? There's a couple things there. Number one, you would want to make sure that you're not just lumping anaerobic training all into one, right? We want to do some work with both the alactic and the lactic thresholds specifically. And those, there's protocols for building those. But also as it comes into like competition week or fight week, even as you start to taper off, for sure on not doing as much sparring and stuff, but you still would want to be doing some alactic work even coming close to the competition, as long as it's not going to make inroads into your recovery, right? So that's important, right? So, think about even if you were coming up to fight week, you're not doing sparring because you don't want to get injured, but we might have you on the bag or something like that, like doing those really intense, like 8 to 10 second sprints, and making sure that capacity is still there, because if you took the whole week off prior to the fight, you might still be good on the lactic, for like 30-second bursts, but the 8 to 10, like when it counts, may not be there for you because, again, that's going to diminish within about 5 days. So hopefully that is helpful to some of you guys as you think about your programming. Also remember that the older we get, the optimum volume vis-a-vis intensity is going to go down. So if all things were equal in terms of the amount of intensity that we can put out in a workout, whether it's supplemental training or it is, doing jiu-jitsu itself, we may not lose our intensity at 45 versus what we could do at 35 per se, you may be like, hey, like I'm still good. But what is going to be the the optimal level of volume that we can handle so it doesn't make inroads into our recovery is going to change. You're actually going to get the optimal volume for you at the older age, okay, especially after 40, is going to be less than what it used to be. And a lot of times that's hard for people to get because, they're like, but I still feel just as good. I actually might feel better than I did when I was in my mid-30s, right? I'm one of those cases, but I do notice that I do need some extra recovery versus what I used to have, although my output can be just as high, and in some cases even better than it was back then because I made some adjustments. So again, I hope that's helpful. Also, for those of you who are new for 40 Plus BJJ, okay, this isn't just a community, a forum. A lot of times people just come on and start reading the threads. Also, please make sure, check the announcements, check the group description because there's a lot of information in there. I've got a lot of free resources that you can sign up for. That's what this group was about. It's both for the community within the Facebook group and the support, but my main thing is since 2011, I've had a program, which is 40 Plus BJJ, that's specifically designed to be useful for you guys to improve technically. It's a lot about training methodology, a lot about how to learn as much as it is technical. There's a lot of resources for technique. I think, I'm one of a small number of people that are really teaching more focus on the engine of jiu-jitsu as opposed to the branches, all the specific techniques. It's not about Stephen Whittier jiu-jitsu. It's about sort of what is universal to everybody and how to learn to get better. Useful for everybody becomes really, really useful, even indispensable, the older you get in your journey. So check out those resources. Make sure you sign up for my email list. You can go to the announcements where you'll see the BJJ Skill Development Accelerator ebook and the video, and you can sign up for that, and then you'll also be on the list to find out about other resources and things like that I have, videos, and hopefully that will be of great help to you. Always feel free to message me too if you have anything, info@40plusbjj.com, or you can even hit me up on direct messenger. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. Right, guys? And Marty, before I go, how important is breathing or breath work training, working on specific breathing muscles in this? I think that's always really useful, and there are for sure things you can do. A lot of people are familiar with the yogic breathing that and diaphragmic breathing, Hickson was famous for in Choke, and his son, Crone, does a bit of that too. I think for general purposes, everybody will breathe in during training. That you don't have to teach people how to breathe in because the brain will make the body do it, right? You're craving oxygen. So being able to control the exhale, which is why a lot of times you'll hear that that type of breathing like Hickson doing, that's a skill you want to be able to do. And so the first kind of fundamental rudimentary tier that I always bring up to people when they're using too much energy in the beginning is I'll say, it's kind of doing a reframe for yourself, or if you're a coach, for your students, instead of just relying on years and years. Because honestly, I've known people get up to high belt ranks, like brown and black belt even, that still have trouble with their breath control. It's not just a beginner thing for all cases, but most people start to mitigate it. But one of the ways to leapfrog this is just to say your goal for this training session, maybe just one day, maybe for the next week, maybe even for a few months, is not about a technical objective or even something as big as how many submissions you can get or not getting tapped or anything like that. It's really just about awareness of your breath and trying to coordinate that with your movement. So if you can combine your awareness of your breath, so you can kind of let go every time you feel like you're respirating at too great a rate, and combine that with having a sort of a pact with yourself that if you feel like you're forcing anything, you will find another way, even if it means conceding position, right? Then what you're doing is you're creating a more efficient game. And the reframe that takes place there a lot of times is it may seem like you're losing something right now, but you will obviously be gaining something long term, right? So you're going to make yourself better. So you might not see the results in the next month, but if you go out 5 years, you're going to see a tremendous result because you're going to be very, very efficient and you're not going to be forcing anything, right? And jiu-jitsu is always about don't walk headlong into the fucking door, into the fucking wall, right? It's go find the door, right? Slide the window open and crawl through, right? Path of least resistance. So breathing is a big part of that. Hopefully that helps. Okay, guys, I will talk to you later. Have a great one.